10 minutes, and I just want you to make detailed observations about this image, right? Look at the image, anything you notice about the figures in it, about the background, right? Any physical details that jump out at you, just sort of sit and just write them down. Take 10 minutes. And try to be specific. Bless you. find yourself slowing down and running out of things to say, go to an observation that you've already made and start breaking it down into smaller parts, right? You can probably take something you've already noticed and pull it apart into more minute pieces. So if you run out of things to say about the picture, start doing that. So what I'd like you to do now, do you have a question? Or do you want to start making observations?
No, that's my question.
Oh yeah, what's your question?
Is that like a young FDR to you?
Pardon?
Is that like a young FDR to you? Franklin Delano Roosevelt?
Oh,
don't think he's very young.
Not really.
I don't think he's very young at all.
Okay, one thing I can tell you, it is not any Roosevelt. Before we start talking about your observations, though, right? What I'd like you to do is take another 3 or 4 minutes and categorize your observations, right? Which pertain to the picture in general, right? You know, maybe things you've said sort of about the condition of the picture, or, you know, time of year, anything like that. Observations about the background. Observations about the figures. And if you can come up with another category on your own, then go for it. Okay, just take 3 or 4 minutes and try to categorize your observations. All right, so what observations have you made that you think pertain to the picture in general?
I think it's not in color.
Okay, not in color.
It'll say old.
What suggests old to you?
The yellowish color
Okay, yeah, it's kind of yellowish tone, right?
to it. Has a crease in it.
Yeah, the link will run it right through.
Yeah, it's creased.
And around the edges look like it's deteriorating.
Yeah, it's a little frayed around the edges, right? Good. All right, good. Any other observations you guys have made about the picture in general?
Low resolution,
Okay.
probably just because it's old.
Yeah, probably just because it's old. Yeah, probably not a digital image, right?
It was made by Delta. I know they pictures.
Okay. Yeah, we have this delta mark in the corner here, right? So we'll ponder what that might be in a minute. Somebody else have a hand up in the back? Yeah, Jerica.
He's standing and she's sitting.
Okay, yeah. The figures are in different positions. So we'll worry about that when we talk about the figures. Any other general observations about the picture? Okay, what about the background? What do you see in the background? Okay.
It's like a statue of Benjamin Franklin.
Yes, that is a statue
That isn't incorrect.
of Ben Franklin.
That's who I thought it was. I'd say the old buildings behind them.
They look way too old.
Okay, yeah.
But it's
Hello.
old anyway because the picture's
Well, the pictures are only as old or even older.
What makes you think
Okay.
England though? What makes you say England?
Yeah,
New England.
old. No, I say it's old anyway because the picture's old.
Oh, okay. I heard it's old because it's England.
It's a nice building. It's got that fancy trim work going around.
Okay,
the top
yeah.
of it.
Yeah, at least someone put a little bit of thought into some design in
Like
these, one of these
a
buildings.
Very well
courthouse or
done.
something.
Okay, yeah. So we got buildings in the background, and it's good that you're breaking these down.
Well, it's like it might be in some sort of park or something.
That's
like
what I was
big
thinking.
grass that they're standing on, and then the wall, you look behind his right knee.
Yeah, like usually right there.
Okay, yeah,
there's
there's like a-
courthouse around.
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good catch there. Yeah, there is like a park wall back here.
I'm thinking town or small city.
In the middle of town.
Okay. So it looks like middle of a town.
Sounds weird.
What's
Yeah,
beside his
sounds
right
good.
leg? Like in that little gap right there, do you see that at the bottom?
Right here?
That's a car.
That's a car.
That's
Yeah.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's like how old could it be?
Well, how old does that car look?
It was like
Hell
that.
I mean, it looks like a rectangle.
Or a box shape.
Yeah, it's got square edges, not round, so it's not like 20s old.
Yeah.
That's
Back.
like 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, good. So, all right. So this yeah.
That's what I thought.
This is good. We're taking what seems like an inconsequential detail in the picture, right? There's, this boxy looking car in the back, but you're using that to determine about when this would have been taken. That's actually a really good, smart move.
Looks like the window's open on the building on the right. If you look beside the statue,
Mhm.
Coming up top.
and it might be like a sign right under that post sticking up.
Where are we?
If you look, yeah, that looks like an open window, and that looks like a post of some sort beside it, maybe a sign.
Okay.
I know this
Signpost.
might be impossible to tell. I don't know too much about how old photos look, but is it like a cloudy day? I don't know if you can tell that without
They're
going.
both wearing jackets. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
The trees
The figures
have
are
no-
both wearing jackets, so
right. And
yeah,
the
we'll
trees
get to
have
that.
no leaves on them.
Yeah,
so
trees
we
have. Yeah,
to
trees are leafless. Good.
Looks like they have leaves. The ones on like the rim of the photo.
Or maybe fall.
Yeah, these trees in the middle look pretty bare, right?
Yeah. Maybe fall.
What trees are
Okay, so let's move on to the two figures. And let's sort of deal with each, we'll deal with them together, we'll deal with them as a pair first, and then we'll sort of break them apart and look at each specifically. Okay, so what can we say about the two figures?
The way that she's sitting.
Okay.
Like, especially being a dress, and it looks like since it's a little bit older, only when you sit like that.
Yeah, it's all casual looking.
It's very light-hearted.
Woman sitting, man standing. Let's focus first, though, just like on the relationship between the two, like how the two figures are presented, rather than sort of breaking them down into individual.
Oh no. Move your mouse.
What, pardon?
Move your mouse.
Oh,
Maybe like dominant. He looks like dominating already. Because of how they're positioned.
okay, yeah. He's standing kind of over her, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the left.
They're at least acquaintances. They know each other.
Okay, yeah. Why else would they be in the picture together? Right?
Well, he looks older, so he could
Okay.
be her dad or something.
Man looks older.
It's possible.
Okay.
40 as well.
And are they
Something like that.
Are they standing next to each other in a way that suggests a romantic relationship or some other kind of relationship?
Like
Some other
more of
time.
a father-daughter relationship because they're not, touching.
Yeah, they're not holding hands. or
Yeah.
anything.
they're close to each other, right? But they're not touching.
And he's not, like, he doesn't even have, like, his hand on her shoulder or anything.
Yeah.
He just-
Yeah. No physical contact between the two figures. Yeah. Good. So let's then let's look at the woman first. Now we've already noted, right, that she is sitting, and somebody, I think, Kason, you were saying something about the way she's sitting.
It was weird, the thing that's on her head, that looks like it came like from the 20s or something, like what a flapper would wear, but.
Okay, yeah, she's wearing like a flapper headband. Yeah.
Which threw me off because it doesn't look like it's that old.
I
said 1930s to 1940s.
Okay,
I said
I
60s.
said that although she's fully dressed, her legs are showing.
Yeah, her legs are showing. Good.
40s,
I
50s.
don't know too much about it. Is that floor?
What else can we say about the woman? She's wearing, long boots, right? Knee-high boots.
She looks very special.
Also that jacket, like, I mean, it's not saying it's ugly, but it doesn't
Uh-huh.
necessarily look like something that she would wear. Like she's wearing something decorative on her hair, so she might would wear something like a different style jacket. Kind
Yeah. And isn't it kind of weird that she's sitting with her her legs splayed kind of funny and her legs showing, but she's otherwise buttoned up from chin,
Right.
like from chin to waist.
Her posture is very
And the way
odd.
she's sitting in a skirt.
Knees closed,
Yeah.
but legs open.
Yeah.
Is that person?
Because usually they would sit like
As
this.
long as your legs closed, I was really thinking back.
Okay, let's not wander too far down in any dark paths here. What else can we say about the woman, the way she's presented here to us?
They don't look very happy.
Yeah, she's smiling, but it looks forced.
Okay, forced
I
smile.
don't know if we
Okay.
carry that far, but
She doesn't look like she's having fun.
She looked like this. That's what she
Well,
was like.
we can probably actually make some inferences about that too, like based on sort of what we see in the picture. Given the fact that the coat is all buttoned up, the trees are leafless. How comfortable is it probably outside?
Not very.
Probably cold. Yeah, it's probably cold, right? So yeah, we are probably looking at winter or fall. I'm not going to tell you where this picture was taken yet. We'll get to that. What about the man? Let's focus on the man for a minute.
mustache.
Well, he looked angry.
Oh yeah.
No,
And
he
is
looks
that-
happier?
Is that just a mustache?
Well, he's got the whole Wyatt Earp looking thing going on.
Yeah, that's like full on walrus stash, right?
Looks like he's got something on his
He looked like a cowboy
Okay, what makes him look like a cowboy to you?
With his vest.
Pardon?
With his vest and his jeans.
and his jeans.
Okay.
His shirt doesn't really look like.
And his cowboy
It looks like he's
hat,
wearing a
like
Hawaiian shirt underneath that
That
vest.
shirt rolled.
You be quiet. That's beautiful.
He's
Hey,
a scarf.
he likes to party.
What he's got like a button-down checked shirt
Yeah.
under the vest. That's what that is.
He's got
Yeah,
that
and it
neat
looks
cough
like he
and
has
that
a
western
cowboy
thing.
hat.
Okay.
an old.
Hands fine.
He got that confidence.
Hey,
When I first saw the photo, I almost thought actors for both of them.
Okay. What suggested actors to you?
The picture just looks staged.
For the
Oh,
way
yeah, the
where
picture,
he
yeah.
is,
It's
their
not- they're-
outfits look odd or out of place, kind of.
And they're not really in natural positions, right?
And she's sitting on a stool.
where exactly
sitting on a
are his
stool.
hands?
Yeah.
They're not on his hips, they're not in his pockets.
Well, if they're not in his pockets and they're not on his hips, where would they be?
He's being arrested.
Where's the cop?
Well, might there be a simpler explanation
Look, her
than
hands
he's
aren't
being
showing
arrested?
either.
Her hands aren't showing us.
So
That's true.
they
Yeah.
are arrested.
Okay, everybody, just calm down a minute. Slow down. Slow down. Okay. Yeah, no, but that is interesting. Yeah, neither has hands showing. But think about where given the way the man is standing, where must his hands be?
Behind his back.
Behind his back, right? So he's probably holding them like this, right? Now, apart from being arrested, where does one learn to hold your hands behind your back?
Military.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not for
prob-
arrest.
so he's probably standing in
bad
some
word.
version of at ease posture, right? That's probably, he's not, the leg is bent in a way it's not supposed to be. but the way he's standing, right? People don't normally naturally stand like that. So he probably has a military background, or was served in the military at some point. What else can we say about the man?
He looks happier.
What suggests that he looks happier?
He's smirking.
It's kind of hard to
He's
see.
smirking,
He looks
okay,
like
yeah.
He's smiling a little
He has
bit.
Yeah.
like 4 layers of shirts.
Yeah, he's got a vest,
Okay.
a
An
Hawaiian
undershirt.
shirt,
Well-
looks like an undershirt under that.
Well, I mean, come on, we've already determined it's probably cold out, right?
It looks like he's almost wearing jeans of some sort.
Yeah, he is wearing jeans.
So that it's not that old.
He looks
Like, normally if
pretty
you
tall.
wear a vest.
I mean, I
and
know
stuff
she's
like
sitting, but if she stood up, he would still be tall.
He's certainly tall relative to her.
Yeah.
And
Or is she short relative to him?
I can't
She's
figure
sitting.
his hat out. It's not a cowboy hat. It's not like a formal top hat.
It's sort of like a bowler, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
bowler with a long rim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the rim's really, really big. It's a short sombrero.
These are interesting people. He looks like he's from a weird western, and she looks like she's from the 20s.
He looks like he got his clothes from Salvation Army. Really cool.
They're hippies.
So
They
it's
look
Across the
good.
line too.
So, given their style of dress, it is kind of hard to pin them down to any specific decade, right?
Yeah.
But given other context clues here, do we think we might be able to date this picture?
My best
Oh.
guess. No, I can't.
I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna say 1950s.
I was gonna
I'll
say
say
40s or
50s.
50s.
From
say
the
60s.
picture itself, I would have said maybe 60s, but it's so old and black and white that like everything else points to like 20s or 30s.
Well, one thing we have to remember too is that like things like color film
They go
are
to, like,
much more
70s.
recent innovations than we tend to think they are.
Yeah, they go to like forever ago.
With that car in the background, I mean, like back in the
That
40s and
tripped me
50s,
out.
cars were very rounded. They had a lot
Yeah,
more
they
style.
were.
Mhm.
That one looks like it's the 60s because it just has kind of like a flat side to it.
My final
Yeah,
guess
it
is
looks like a box, yeah.
Yeah, and
front
the,
windows slanted too. Most of them have.
and the correct the correct date for this is early 1960s.
bingo.
Now, one thing that one of you noted here is the little delta symbol in the corner. Now, coupled with the way the edges look, can you tell what that means this image is? What is this?
A cover?
A composite.
A Polaroid?
It's not it's not a no, it's not a Polaroid. I'm surprised any of you even know what a Polaroid is.
It's the Polaroid
I work at Walmart.
picture.
I've seen this.
Yeah, this is a book jacket.
Book.
This is a book cover. Yeah.
That's why the edges look weird.
That's
It's
why
not-
the
it's
edges
not
look
a
the way
picture,
they
it's a
do.
book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a book cover. And that's a publisher's mark.
Oh.
Oh.
So,
So it's
Where's
a
the
biography?
title?
so what's it about?
That's a good question, right? Now this is something we have to think about here, right? Is what conventional markers of a book cover are missing here?
The
Where's the
title
title?
and
Okay.
the author.
No title, no author.
He is his own author.
Unless that is the author.
Dun, 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 dun. A female writer.
But there's
That was a thing.
there's no author listed, right, on the cover. There's no author list. So whether one of these people is the author or not, right, we don't know. We don't know what the book is called. So what then does, like, if we manage to sort of locate a time of year and a rough historical moment, right? What does the publisher want us to think about these figures?
They're the main subject.
Okay, that would be like sort of your assumption if you're picking up the book, right? I'm going to say this: the book is called "Trout Fishing in America."
Oh, they're fishers.
But do we see a stream or fishing poles or anything anywhere nearby?
No.
Any conventional markers of trout fishing?
I was trying to use your like.
So, yeah, so it's clearly not using the idea of trout fishing
Fly
to sell the book. And indeed, the book isn't actually about trout fishing anyway.
Maybe he's getting
This is very
catfished.
confusing.
Maybe he's getting catfished.
By her.
So,
He looks like he's 60.
what then does this publisher want you thinking in the early 1960s when you pick up this book with these two people on the cover and Ben Franklin standing in the background? How is this image being used to sell this book without giving you a title and without naming the author?
It's weird and you want to open it up.
Okay, yeah, that's a weird thing to do, right? That's an unusual way of presenting a book. And they're hoping you'll be curious and you'll pick it up, right? But if we think about the early 1960s and how people typically looked and behaved in the early 1960s, do these people look like quote-unquote normals?
No.
No, yeah. Like, how many of you have ever seen Mad Men? Okay, you have.
No, I meant, is this like a history of America?
No.
Because I was
It's a novel.
dating like Benjamin Franklin, and then it looks like she's from the 20s, and then he looks like he's a little more modern than that.
Mhm.
So maybe they were trying to do a story, a timeline.
I think you are actually on, it's not a history book, it's a novel, but I think you are actually kind of onto something there, right? So these people are kind of unconventionally dressed, right? Which would suggest in a 1960s context, what are they?
Weird.
Yeah, they're hippies, they're counterculture people, right? So it's trying to appeal to a more sort of counterculture audience. And she's wearing a flapper headband. He is dressed in some ways in kind of, some of his dress suggests Old West style. He's standing on a relaxed version of a military posture, and they're standing underneath Benjamin Franklin. So, what he's arguing for, what the picture is arguing for here, right, is that this counterculture tradition is just as much a part of the mainstream American history. In fact, maybe actually more a part of the mainstream of American history, right? You know, this culture of kind of, being weird and doing what you want to, than, putting on a suit, grabbing your briefcase, having your triple martini breakfast, and, going from your suburban box in your boxy car to your office box and dying a little bit inside every day.
Then repeat.
Then repeat.
My favorite. My favorite kind.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I was thinking something totally different.
What were you thinking?
About the picture.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, like they were maybe a couple that were like arrested, run. They got
Okay.
My best guess
captured,
was the
and
timeline.
he's like, I know I'm gonna get away with it. She's like, she don't really care.
Okay, they do have a look almost like they've been caught doing something, right? Well, almost like they're in a little bit of trouble, yeah. Hence the kind of forced, pained look on her face. But yeah, this guy is this is the author.
Oh.
The guy on the right. This is or my right. Yes, this is my right. His name, Richard Brautigan. He American writer, 1950s through 1970s. Mostly wrote kind of surreal and childlike kind of in a surreal and childlike kind of style. I remember reading a book of his when I was in college, in which there were these people who lived in this utopian community where they made everything out of watermelon.
What?
That's beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Who's her then?
Watermelon.
Well, that's the thing is, who is she, right? Who is the woman and what's she doing in the picture?
Is that his wife? Sister.
They're
Cousins.
But we've already determined, right, they're not really positioned in a way that suggests a wife, right? And does the picture actually give us enough information
No.
to determine who she is?
Not really.
Is she a co-author?
If she is, she doesn't get any credit.
Oh,
Right.
I was saying maybe she's
Trout Fishing in America by Richard Brautigan, not by Richard Brautigan and...
Is she an editor?
Do you actually know who? Do you know who she is?
No, I actually do not know who this woman is.
So his point was to show us different times.
Yeah, I think that the timeline thing is sort of what I get out of it.
Okay.
But I think it is also weird that the author in his cover photo here has someone else in the picture with him. And I think that one of you noticed earlier that he's standing over her and actually looking a little bit kind of dominant. And I don't know, like that. That's a kind of weird thing that I don't quite know what to do with. And to me, it suggests that, like, in sort of the hippie counterculture, that things weren't as freewheeling and easy, at least in terms of gender relationships, as they liked to portray it.
Yeah.
That, people were still falling into kind of traditional male dominance, female submissive gender roles. All right, well, we did this mostly just because, we, like I said, our schedule has been pretty inconsistent, and the more kind of observation and analysis practice we get, the better. And also because, it is 9:30 in the morning, we need to do something to wake our brains up. So what I really want to talk in more detail about today is sort of setting you up to do what'll be the last of the 4 writing analytically homework assignments that you'll be doing for this course. Now, some of you, I think, need the J.R.R. Tolkien piece to do the summary assignments that I talked about last week, right? Some of you weren't here last week. So yes, if you weren't here last Wednesday, hang out for a minute after class and I'll give you the thing you need to complete that assignment. But what you're going to be looking for this final assignment are what we call enthymemes. Right, you are going to locate in the wild five enthymemes. Do any of you have any idea what an enthymeme is? Okay. So 2 things I will say about that. One,
Is it a me?
no.
That'd be easy.
Yeah. 1, read the chapter in writing analytically. It will explain to you what an enthymeme is. 2, in order to understand what an enthymeme is, you have to first understand what a syllogism is. Any of you ever heard of a syllogism before?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
It's like a false statement that sounds true, but it's not.
No, it's not a false statement. What a syllogism is, it's a test that philosophers use, right, to test the logic out of a proposition. Right? Not whether a proposition is true or false, but whether it's logical. So the classic example is all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Right? So this works in 3 parts. The first sentence is always going to deal with some kind of broad category. Right? In this case, all men, and will explain some characteristic that every member of that category shares, right? All men are mortal. We call this the major premise. The second sentence is the application of a specific case to the major premise, right? You're picking one individual out of the category of all men, in this case Socrates, and you're applying that characteristic to him, right? Socrates is a man, right? Specific case. And finally, you have your conclusion, right? Because we include Socrates in this broad category, then he shares all he shares characteristics with all other members of this category, right? So in order for a syllogism to be valid, the subject of the major premise has to agree with the object of the minor premise. And the subject of the minor premise then must include the sort of this broad category that's in this characteristics of the major premise, right? That's how this works. So if we monkey with any part of that formula, the syllogism no longer works. So if I were, for example, to switch this around and say, all men are mortal, Socrates is mortal, therefore Socrates is a man, does this still work?
Yes.
It no longer works out the way that syllogism is supposed to, right? Because I've moved around the subjects and objects of the premises. Right? It's no longer, because there are other things that are not men that are also mortal, right? So I'll give you another example. Right. Reptiles do not have fur. Crocodiles are reptiles. Therefore,
Which is a category.
crocodiles do not have fur. All right. So everybody gets what a syllogism is, right? How this operates, how
Kind
this
of like
works.
if then that.
Yeah. So an enthymeme is a kind of compressed syllogism, right? An enthymeme is a syllogism that is missing one or more of these premises, right? The missing premise is implied rather than stated. So to give you an example of an enthymeme, a bigger burger is a better burger. The burgers are bigger. At Burger King.
They're better at Burger King.
Exactly, yes. That's the implied premise, right? All it says is that the burgers are bigger at Burger King, so it leaves out the conclusion of the syllogism, right?
Okay.
The ad is constructed as a syllogism, right? A bigger burger is a better burger is your major premise. The burgers are bigger at Burger King is your minor premise. And the conclusion, which the ad allows you to come to yourself, right, is that the burgers are better at Burger King. Do we see how this works? You find enthymemes in advertising a lot, right? And most of the examples I'm going to give you are drawn from advertising or from pop culture, from movies, from pop songs, because these are actually all around us all the time. We just rarely think about them, and we rarely notice them. Okay, so here's another. The defendant's fingerprints are on the gun. He is clearly guilty. What's the missing premise here?
An eyewitness.
It's missing the middle part, right?
Yeah, there's a middle part missing here, right?
The gun was used to kill someone.
Yeah, the gun was used to kill someone,
Or some crime.
and if his fingerprints are on it,
He's guilty.
what does that mean? And why does that indicate his guilt?
They were, I would say they were a match.
If you touched it, you did it.
Exactly, yeah. The fingerprints being on the gun proves that he touched it, right?
Hmm. In his possession.
And these won't count if you use these as the work is happening.
What's that?
We don't have to go out into nature,
We can't use these for
apparently.
No, yeah, okay, you cannot use any of the examples that I give you in the assignment.
So I'll give you examples.
And I am also aware that there are certain websites that give lists of sample enthymemes. Don't go to those either, right? I want you to actually, go to songs that you like, go to movies you like, TV shows you watch, ads that you see all the time, and try to pull enthymemes out of those and explain them, right? You're gonna have a week to do this, so. Right, so
When is the due date?
this will be a week from today. Because the summary thing is gonna be due Wednesday, and then this will be due the following Monday.
So
Yes.
just write the 5 and then explain them how they're.
Exactly, you're gonna write the 5, you're gonna explain the logic.
How long
right?
does it have to be?
Not long. I mean, there's no word count limit on this one because the limit is how many you're doing, right? So let's just do a couple more just to make sure that we all get it, right? Just to make sure everybody understands.
And it's in the book too, isn't it?
It is in the book, yeah.
I'll use the examples.
It's
Yeah,
one in
that'll
the
fly.
book.
What's that?
It's one in the book.
Uh-huh.
Cats make better pets than dogs because cats are more independent.
Okay, and what's the unstated premise there?
Independent animals make better pets.
Yes, that an independent animal, right, makes better pet. Now, I
Lizards
personally,
do that.
I personally prefer a pet that poops outside rather than a pet that poops in my house, but that's just me.
I heard
This is why I'm a dog person.
this one thing one time with this account, it said, why eat with a clown when you can dine with a king?
Why
About
eat with a...
why eat at McDonald's when you can eat at Burger King?
That's awesome.
Okay,
Is that kind of going on the right track, or?
sort of, yeah, like what would be the implied unspoken premise there?
Not McDonald's is a clown, so I mean, it's kind of like, people don't
Okay.
take clowns very seriously, so.
Okay, the people take a king more seriously than they take a clown. Yeah, I mean, that could work. Yeah, something like that could work. Let's just do a couple more of these, just so you get the hang of it and you learn how to recognize them. All right, so this is from an ad campaign that I think is still going, that I remember from when I was a child, right? With a name like Smuckers, it has to be good. What's implied but unstated here?
The name Smuckers makes things good.
Okay, but explain the logic there, right? Why does the fact that it's named Smuckers?
It makes you smack.
That makes you smug.
Okay. I don't believe there is any such verb as smucking. I hope not. I sincerely hope not.
Let's make one.
Okay, with a name like Smuckers, it has to be good. So you can interpret this really actually in two ways, right? One, that because Smuckers is a famous brand name, right? If they're putting their name on it, then they must stand behind it.
Yeah.
That it must be a good product. But there's another way you could read this as well. Is Smuckers a particularly appetizing sounding name?
No.
It sounds a little bit like kind of gross smacking, right? As you said. So you could also interpret this like if we're willing to give our product a name as kind of gross sounding as Smuckers, it must be good enough to get past that, right? All right. How many of you have seen what's the stupid Disney movie with David Spade and Patrick Warburton? It's an Inca emperor, and he's a
Emperor Nehru?
Yes.
Okay.
I ain't seen that in a minute.
Did you seriously call that stupid?
As soon as he said the Inca, we were all like, what do we know? That was
All right.
my childhood.
So I have an example.
Don't touch your clown, don't touch your
I have an example pulled from that. Right. We have our emperor.
And Brooker's
and our guard, right? And the guard says, you're forcing an entire village out of their homes just for you.
Yes.
And our emperor says, and that's bad? Right? So what is the guard trying to explain to the emperor about the emperor's behavior?
He's selfish.
Yeah, that he's selfish, right? And that selfish behavior is,
Bad.
yeah, you're selfish.
Hey, dodged that question.
And selfishness is bad.
Yeah.
All right. So this one might be, this one's a little longer. It might be a little bit more difficult to parse out. It's from an old Public Enemy song called Fight the Power. Right. Elvis was a hero to most. Elvis was a hero to most. Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me.
Okay.
You see straight up racist. That sucker was. Simple and plain. Motherfuck him and John Wayne. Well, what do Elvis and John Wayne have in common?
They're both celebrities.
Okay, they're both celebrities, and both celebrities from, like, they're not in the same
Hollywood.
genre, right?
No, they're from like the same time period.
Exactly, yeah. They're both mid-20th century celebrities, right? You know, they're both, sort of big in the 50s and 60s. So what's the implied premise here about the 1950s and 60s entertainment industry?
Everyone's racist.
Yeah, that racism was kind of embedded in that industry, right? That 1950s and 60s Hollywood and the recording industry stacked the deck against black artists, black actors, black directors, all that, right? Okay. Two more. This one's from an episode of The Simpsons.
Yes. Something I don't watch. You neither.
You don't need to watch it to figure this out.
Still doing great.
All right. A philanthropist, a humanitarian, a man of peace, these are just a few of the people who have come to spit on Montgomery Burns' grave. So what is this setting you up to think, right? Like when you hear somebody talking about a dead person, and they say a philanthropist, a humanitarian, a man of peace, what's the assumption you automatically make?
Good people. That the person that's dead is that.
Yeah,
person.
that they're talking about the person who's died, right? That they'd be talking about here Montgomery Burns. But what is he actually saying?
They all hate him.
He's talking about the audience.
Yeah, that Montgomery Burns was such a rotten piece of shit, right? That even these people who are noted for their love of their fellow human beings showed up to his funeral just to spit on his grave, right? So that's the implication here, right? The unstated premise is that Montgomery Burns was a terrible person. one more, and this will wrap it up for us.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
There are
so-
no questions.
You haven't met this. When we did the syllogisms, difficult word, I can't say.
Syllogisms, yeah.
They're laid out in three-part systems.
Yeah.
These are missing a part, but they're kind of just like little block paragraphs. So they don't necessarily have to be laid out.
No, they
exactly
don't
like this.
necessarily. Yeah, like if we looked at like the first example, like that Burger King example, that is laid out just like a syllogism that's just missing a sentence, right? Not all of them are gonna be.
Okay.
So we
what-
just need to know how to explain it.
Just
Exactly.
something we-
Yeah, you need to be able to find these sorts of little sort of quotes that have a premise missing, right? There's something implied in the quote that's not clearly stated, right? That you are expected to then pull out for yourself. So these are just examples of like the sorts of places where that happens, right? So yeah, just think about quotes from movies, think about quotes from TV shows, quotes from songs, quotes from advertisements, whatever, right? And try to pick out quotes from them in which there's something suggested, right? Where it's trying to make you come to that conclusion yourself, rather than actually telling you what that conclusion is, right? All right, so one more, and then we'll put this to rest for now. Go back over here. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate, thank you, Alan, leads to suffering.
Thank you.
I sense much fear in you. What's the implication?
He's going to the dark side.
Well, more directly, what's the implication?
He's gonna be angry.
Yeah, exactly, right? The unstated premise, right? He says, I sense much fear in you. The unstated premise is that I also thus sense much anger in you, right? Anger is the thing fear leads to. So, because of this, right, I sense much fear in you, I sense much anger in you. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
That last one helped.
All right, good. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so you've got a week to just sort of go out and try to locate these. If you're having trouble with it, or if like you're not sure if something you find qualifies, then just shoot me an email and ask me.
That was gonna
Right?
be my
Yes.
question.
Can we have multiple ones from the same song?
Or the same type of, whatever.
I guess that would depend on the quality.
I would say no. Try to use different sources to get them.
Dang.
Right?
You can't got one song. That was survival.
Okay, so.